I'm Andy Peoples, and for the next hour on Smooth Radio, we shall be celebrating the musical career and the life of Dusty Springfield. On the eve of what will be the 50th anniversary of her solo career starting, we'll hear from her friends and peers. Vicky Wickham was the producer of a new television programme called Ready, Steady, Go. It was the start of a new chapter in Dusty's life.
The deal was that if you did the pilot for us and we got picked up, then you could be on the first show. And the Springfield, by the time we were picked up and we were a show, Dusty had to come in and say rather guiltily, "We've split up and you probably won't want me," to which we said, "No, we will." And actually, that was how I first met Dusty. And from then on, for some reason, we just clicked. We had a lot in common. We had the same sort of sick sense of humor. We liked a lot of the same music, even at that time. We just had sort of points of reference. So we just became friends from then. And then as she was on the show, on Ready, Steady, Go, she was on a lot. I mean, she became sort of like a regular. So over the years, we just spent a lot of time together. We were friends. Our friends were our same friends. We went on holiday. We just did all sort of things. And we were both...
She was on Phillips and I was on Decca. But on television, we did quite a few duets together. And she always felt that we were very similar. And so did I, you know, in our approach to music, what we were listening to, what we were being influenced by, and what kind of songs we like to sing. So with Dusty, as with me, if we did a ballad, we would try and do it as soulfully as possible to put some soul into,
credentials, and nor could you miss her iconic look. Dusty's beehive wigs and smoky eye makeup became a trademark. In later years, it would transpire that the makeup also masked Dusty's short-sightedness.
It was partly that, but it was also because she wanted a look. And once you put on something like, panda eye makeup, it's a look. And she was a couple of years older than a lot of the, the Scillas, the Sandys, the Lulu, well, certainly Lulu. And it made her distinctive. She would wear a lot of wigs, and they were called, Lulu, Scilla, and Petula.
Dusty worked hard to perfect her look.
It was totally her. She was very into foreign films, so a lot of that came from French films, from French magazines, from, I suppose, like French Vogue. She was very conscious of people, like, I suppose, Jean Moreau, who wasn't a conventional beauty, but had a real look of
witness. Now, in April 1965, Dusty Springfield and Vicky Wickham were to bring the sound of Motown to the United Kingdom.
We knew the Motown Revue was coming over because they were playing, dates, and we'd obviously been playing a lot of their records on the show. Stevie Wonder had been on, a lot, several Motown artists had been on, but Dusty and I were talking one night and just said this would be a great idea to put on television, the Motown Revue. And when I went to Elkin and suggested, he was wonderful because he knew the music, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And he said, but we need Dusty, because that would, give us a selling point. That would be a good focus.
Mary Wilson of the Supremes still has vivid memories of that Motown Revue.
The Motown Revue was touring in the United States, and we did a couple of shows with Murray Decay in New York City. And on the show was this English girl, Dusty Springfield. And she was so soulful, and we were like, "Oh my God, she's really, really good." Anyway, so we all became best friends because we were kind of working in the same area. And she said, "You guys should just come over to the UK." Anyway, she went back. She came back here, and she told the people about us and got us here. It was 1965, and we did Ready, Steady, Go. And it was during the time the Motown Revue tour was also touring here in the UK. Well, we called it the Ghost Story because no one came.
It was the Temptations, the Miracles, Martha and the Vandellas, the Supremes, Little Stevie Wonder, Earl Van Dyke, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. I mean, it was an extraordinary bill, but nobody knew who they were.
Nobody was in the audience, and we toured all over the UK. And the Ready, Steady, Go show that we taped didn't come out until after the tour was over.
It was brave of Rediffusion because the ratings must have been pretty bad, and unfortunately the show didn't go out until towards the end of the tour.
Then you had this, everyone just started loving Motown. So we should have had the show first and then tour.
It was such a shame the show didn't go out first and then do the tour. But Berry Gordy, to this day, I mean, just is wonderful and says, you know, if it weren't for you and Dusty, it really, you know, you helped us put Motown on the map.
Harry Wenger oversees the Motown archive for Universal Records, and he knows all too well the importance of Dusty Springfield.
You know, Dusty Springfield was a great artist. Did a lot for Motown in the UK, absolutely. And, you know, she and Martha Reeves became good friends. And Martha has always said, Dusty did it for us. Because Dusty helped us get on television. It was one thing to go around to the theaters. The tour, actually, the Motortown Revue tour of the UK and Europe didn't actually do that well. Didn't sell a lot of tickets. But it was when they did Ready, Steady, Go with Dusty was the key to breaking that open.
In a spiral like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, and it's ever spinning wheel. I loved Dusty. I think her voice, I mean, she was just soulful, you know. I mean, it's like Tom Jones, you know, Shirley Bassey. I don't know. There's something about the English singers, Rod Stewart, who have that real soulful voice, and being white didn't seem to matter.
Dusty Springfield singing In the Middle of Nowhere from 1965. Vicky Wickham remembers that the Motortown Revue after-show parties were even more lively than the shows themselves.
It was fabulous, with Dusty throwing donuts, cream buns, cakes. In fact, we were sitting in her flat in London with Tom and several friends at sort of like 4 a.m. in the morning after everybody else had gone, and there was a large chocolate cake on the table next to Dusty, which nobody had eaten or done anything. So she said, "Oh, well, we won't be wanting this."
Dusty enjoyed some great success covering American artists.
I think the only people that didn't love her was the people that she was covering their records and having success with. I mean, poor Dionne Warwick must have had a meltdown because, you know, out she'd come with a wonderful record and Dusty would cover it.
Well, in actual fact, far from it. Dionne Warwick has nothing but fond memories of Dusty Springfield.
Dusty became a very dear friend over the years. And I met her when I came to do Ready, Steady, Go, actually. We became instant friends. And it also was ironic that she also was a friend of a young lady that I knew from the gospel field, Madeline Bell. So, you know, it was almost as if we were predestined to meet. And as I said, we instantly became friends, and I enjoyed Dusty's voice. Her voice was, you know, it was special. She had that it stuff that we all talk about. You have to have it, and she had it. And it was nice to know that she decided to record songs that I had recorded, but make them her own. One that comes to mind immediately is I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, aside from Wishing and Hoping, which she did a wonderful job on. And I never thought...
And Hal David. Otis Williams and Duke Fakir of the Temptations and the Four Tops enjoyed a great friendship with Dusty Springfield.
We used to see Dusty when we were coming over here to England during the 70s and 80s. You know, great voice, wonderful lady. You know, we didn't do any shows together, but, you know, she already had a name before we came over here, you know, because she was big in the States. You know, so to see her in person and get a chance to talk with her, wonderful lady.
We were very fortunate, the Four Tops, to do. We did 2 television shows with her, and she was a very, very warm, gracious lady, and she had a great style.
Little by little by little by little by little. Little by little by little by little by little. You're messing up my life, tearing me apart, breaking up my world, and I'm giving up my heart. Ooh, little by little by little by little.
Little by Little, 1966. In the same year, one of Dusty's biggest singles was recorded with very low expectations.
You don't have to say you love me, yeah. Simon Napier Bell and myself wrote lyrics one night before going out, and we hadn't got a clue what the song, even the title of the song was. But, you know, because it was a big, lush ballad, we figured it had to have something to do with love, because it was Italian, and we were in a hurry because, as usual, we were hungry or something, and by default, by going backwards and forwards, we did come up with "You don't have to say you love me" rather than "I love you" and all that slush. And the next morning when I sent the lyrics over to Dusty, and she called me and she said, "God, they're crap." And I said, "I know." And I said, "You know what, don't record it," because she was recording that day. I said, "Don't record it. We can do much better. Let's, you know." She said, "Too late. I'm literally on my way to the studio. I've got to do it." I said, "Oh, God." And then, of course, it went to #1, and she and I are still going.
To Say You Love Me from 1966. Dusty was also known for never listening to her own material.
Each track, as she did it, she would love and be excited about, and yes, want everybody to hear it and, you know, play it. And then once the album was finished, I don't think she ever listened again. I mean, she would have to obviously listen to the singles, but I honestly don't think for years and years and years.
From Dusty with Love. Kenny Gamble, one half of the famous songwriting team of Gamble and Huff, recalls how A Brand New Me came to be on that album.
We had it as a B-side on one of the records, and I used to call Charlie Fash. He was up at Mercury Records. I said, "Charlie," I said, "this song is starting to happen, you know, A Brand New Me." He said, "Yeah, but we're working the other." I think the other side was maybe Only the Strong Survive or something like that. I said, we got to get it out now. At that same time, Jerry Wexler was calling me from Atlantic Records. The beautiful thing that happened was now Gamble and Huff, people were calling us to do things, you know, which was great. And so we made a deal with Atlantic for Wilson Pickett, Archie Bell, Dusty Springfield, and the Sweet Inspirations. We did an album on all these people, right, with Atlantic. So with Dusty, immediately I said, let's bring Dusty in right away. And so we brought Dusty into Philly, and we recorded A Brand New Me with Dusty, which became a big hit.
This is my same old car in my same old shoes. I was the same old me with the same old blues. Then you touched my life just by holding my hand. Now I look in the mirror and see brand new girl. I got a brand new walk, a brand new smile. Since I met you, baby, I got a brand new style. Just because of you, boy, just because of you. Just because of you, boy, just because of you.
A Brand New Me, recorded in Philadelphia in 1969. It was to be Dusty's final American Top 40 hit for 17 years. You're listening to Dusty Springfield's A Life in Music on Smooth Radio with me, Andy Peebles. It was widely known that Dusty battled with stage fright. Vicky Wickham recalls it led to sadder times.
Unfortunately, there was a point where it would be drink. And, of course, the more she drank, the worse it got. Not the better, but it made her feel better, and it indeed did get her on stage. She just had a real problem with nerves going on stage. She would, in the rehearsal or the sound check, it would be magnificent. But, you know, she would sing flat out as if it was the show, and then by the time you got to the show, she'd blown her voice. And so then, of course, she would have to have a couple of drinks to get on stage later. It was a shame, because that was the beginning of a bad period where she did drink too much.
This decline was also seen in record sales. Dusty's popularity waned and ultimately led to her performing in Vegas.
It was really a waste of a lot of years, because she had moved from England to America, because there really weren't that many opportunities in England for women coming out of the 60s with success. you either went into working men's clubs, which was what it was at the time, or you went into pantomime. And, you know, it's fun. We all love a good pantomime, but, you know, that's not really a career. And so Dusty moved to America with great expectations of being, you know, sort of Peggy Lee, Ella Fitzgerald, a solid entertainer. And unfortunately made the wrong choices with managers and agents, and they were confused by her. They didn't know what to do with her. And so it didn't work. And as it didn't work, she would sort of rebel more and more against it because she knew it wasn't working, but she didn't know how to put it right. And it just became a really bad period.
Another artist who endured troubles in those days was Marianne Faithfull. She can fully empathise with Dusty Springfield.
I think she was slightly tormented. To me, she seemed like a great fire, a flame, you know, that was being damped down all the time. And obviously one day that was going to break, and I think it did when she got to America. She cut loose. I think it was hard for her, though. She was ordered what to do. She was told what to do. Didn't really like that. But she had the voice for it. It was something to do with the sign of the times. It was a time where women weren't respected. Dusty obviously didn't want to be a male sex object, but she was turned into one anyway. It was a double life. It was a dual habitation, and I don't know if she was able to do it. I know I wouldn't be.
And, of course, you know, the saving grace was the Pet Shop.
For Dusty.
Ali Willis wrote What Have I Done to Deserve This with the Pet Shop Boys, and I knew Ali. So she called me up one day and said, are you by any chance in touch with Dusty? Because we're trying to reach her for this song. And I said, yes, I am. You know, send it me and I'll make sure she gets it. So I listened to it and thought, wow, this is great. So I sent it to Dust, and, you know, she called me or I called her, and she said, not quite sure. And I said, okay, here's, you know, after a long conversation, I said, well, here's the real plus. It's a Pet Shop Boys record. It's not a Dusty Springfield record. All they're asking you to do is put your voice on it and be a guest. How great. You know, if it fails miserably, it's not your responsibility. And she went, yes, that's a good point. Okay. And of course, you know, it was a huge success. And the boys were wonderful with her, just great. You know, she wasn't drinking. She was, you know, much more optimistic about life in general. Happy to be back working again, enjoying as much as she could a lot of it. I mean, there was still, for her, it was always an effort to promote, to do things, because it was, you know, it was building Dusty Springfield from Mary O'Brien. So the makeup took time, the hair took time, the clothes took time. But, you know, once she'd got all that together and gone through it, then she was happy and pleased at the results and pleased people enjoyed it.
Take your time and tell me where you lie. I realize that we've been found out. This time we should stand together if we can. But what you plan means there's a difference between what you gonna say in private. You still want my love. We're in this together. What you gonna do in public? Say you were never in love, that you can't remember.
In Private from 1989, from, of course, the soundtrack of the film Scandal, based on the affair surrounding the Conservative politician John Profumo at the beginning of the 1960s. Nona Hendryx was a member of the group La Belle. She also enjoyed a long friendship with Dusty.
I loved Dusty Springfield. I mean, she was a good friend, and I spent so much time over the years because of Vicky Wickham, who was managing Dusty and managing me, but also was a friend of Dusty's, going all the way back to the Springfields. And I spent several Christmas occasions or Thanksgivings with Dusty, and, you know, we've traveled together to different places to go to concerts or to just travel. one of the silliest things was one Christmas, we were exchanging presents, and we were with Lee Everett, who was married to Kenny Everett. Everybody exchanged their present, and Dusty came in with this big bag of gifts, and we were all excited, like, oh, what's Dusty going to give us? And she pulled out these weird ducks, and these ducks were made out of sort of not crepe paper, but like some sort of material, and they had bows around their necks, and she gave everybody one of these ducks, and we all, and you was like, what do you say? Do you say, thank you? This is weird. Or, are you out of your mind? And she was so excited and thrilled to be giving them to us. We thought, well, maybe there was something inside of them. So people started playing with the necks or the feet, or that they did something, or that there was something you pressed and music would come out. It was nothing. It was just these ducks made out of this strange material. That is one of my fondest memories of Dusty. I think most of her friends were from 30, 40, 50 years. That said something. It's not always a new group of people. There were people who I met, and there were the people who, we went to the funeral together, and it was really sad, and it makes me sad now as I talk about it, because I really, loved her dearly.
They're gonna want you. They're gonna love you. They're gonna make your dreams come true. They don't wanna be you. They're gonna steal you. Oh, they're gonna take our dreams away. Will you
From 1990, Dusty Springfield and Reputation. In 1999, Dusty's health was in steep decline. She was also awarded an OBE by Her Majesty the Queen.
It was so sad because they write to you. It's kind of in November before the spring to say, if we gave Dusty Springfield an OBE, would she accept it? It's kind of a giveaway, but kind of don't tell anyone. So I called Dusty and said, you're not allowed to tell anybody, but obviously I've got to tell you because the letter's really to you, And we had a laugh about the whole thing. And she said, of course I'll accept it, I'll dress up, we'll go to the palace. And by the time it came around, for, the time, she was in the Marsden and obviously couldn't even go to, pick it up. And she, Dusty would, her way of dealing with emotion was to kind of put it down, meaning I'm sure she said at some point they give this to cleaning ladies. I said, yeah, but if you're a good cleaner, why the hell not? But that was just her way of, I shouldn't really be getting it. But she was chuffed as hell to get it and went round all the wards. It comes in a lovely little box, and she took it round to the nurses and showed them, and everybody was like, in England, it's a big deal. Not everybody gets one. It's just great, and she was so happy.
In those final few months, Dusty was surrounded by friends.
She had some wonderful friends. Debbie Donnell, who was her hairdresser, she and Dusty smoked their way through life. Thank God Debbie stopped now. But, Debbie would go in, put the bleach on the hair to get her blonde. They both got to the smoking room with Dusty attached to one of those drip type things and would giggle themselves silly up there, puffing away. Deb would take in food, etc. Pat, the same thing. She would, pop by with bits and pieces. I'd go by. Tom. I mean, and also Lee Everett used to be married to Kenny. Lee's a hoot, and she would go and she would sometimes pick Dusty up, take her home to Henley, but they'd have to stop at a place called Divertimenti. It sells, it's a place that sells crockery. So Dusty runs out of the ambulance, across the road to go and pick up whatever it is she is, and the ambulance driver's going, no, she can't, we're not allowed to let up patients. So Lee said, well, what are you going to do? I'll go and get her. So the two of them come back loaded with plates and crockery and stuff, and the driver's going, nobody's ever done this before. And Dusty said, well, it's always a first. She was in great spirits. And then again, she dealt with, I suppose, the looming version of the worst really, really well.
Dusty Springfield sadly passed away on the 2nd of March 1999. Terry Doherty worked on Dusty's album campaigns in the 90s, and she recalls Dusty's funeral with great affection.
It was the most fantastic, incredible music business show. I was very, very honoured to have attended Dusty Springfield's funeral. And at the end of it, I said to Vicky, this is amazing. What an incredible day. And so I said, Dusty would have been so happy with this. And she went, oh, I don't know. She would have picked a few bones with a couple of people. But the speeches were incredible. Neil Tennant, Pet Shop Boys, had us howling in the church. There was various other tributes. Lulu did a tribute, and there was lots of laughter in the church. And it was a wonderful celebration of her life.
Vicky and Dusty's careers go hand in hand.
They were best friends. They were musically, they were on the same page. Both very, very talented women. Vicky, as her manager, was probably the best manager Dusty could ever have dreamt of, because Vicky is a very talented producer herself, and she knows the business inside and out. And she did a fantastic job with Dusty and her career. And with all due respect, Dusty wasn't an easy artist to work with, because of her insecurities and her shyness. There was lots of difficult moments where she'd be on the side of a stage and she'd be late, or she wouldn't want to go on, or her nerves did sometimes get the better of her. But Vicky managed Dusty incredibly well. They were a great team. I admired both of them very much.
She and Vicky fought, like all the time, because Dusty is very strong-willed. They had their battles, but, their friendship was more than the business and more than somebody just being right. They would go through their battles and come out the other side, and we'd go and have dinner, right? But friendship stayed throughout.
Without Dusty, I truly wouldn't have done any of it. I mean, she was the focus, the focal point. She was very much my mentor in terms of music, and we grew up together, literally.
I think